I mean, I believe funding the arts is important too, but I do understand what you're saying, where once a government decides to manipulate and turn it into a situation where if you talk about certain things, well, you're never going to see funding, maybe, or if you start to talk about the right things, or maybe just not things that we don't care about, then you get funding, something that's soft, something that's palatable. Or maybe the irony of the situation is that funding would be given to something totally extreme, that like most people would consider extreme, as long as it's obscure, as long as it's not questioning why we're in Afghanistan, or if we want to go to war with Iran, or questioning whether Harper is acting with dictatorial means. I mean, as long as it's not a political question that's right under that could go under the microscope, you're probably safe. You could do an art show that involves different aspects of subcultures and sexuality, but just don't bug us about the fact that we're invading another country, or that we might support Israel when they decide to bomb Iran.
What are you talking about? Might support Israel if they decide to bomb Iran?
Well,
Do you know that Harper's moving right now to create a permanent presence for our Navy in the Strait of Hormuz, the highly sensitive part of the Persian Gulf where most of the Persian Gulf or Arabian oil comes through?
Yeah, we're making sure we do our part, as I'm sure he would say, with his more aggressive, muscular foreign policy, as he describes it. I think we just sent another ship over to the Strait of Hormuz, and I think they're calling it a semi-permanent placement.
Yeah, and it's the HMCS Regina is being deployed to the Strait of Hormuz.
The irony of the whole situation there, Tony, though, the thing that it's such a deep subject. It could be also, and who knows whether Harper sees it this way or not, but I have seen and heard a lot of conjecture saying that Obama is essentially trying to put as much pressure both in a military presence and on the embargo, in order to claim that is actually something that's having an effect, in order to hold Israel off and keep them on a leash, if he can do that, if he can get a hold of that leash. And yet we have Stephen Harper sending a ship that's going to be, essentially the vast majority of those ships, the military ships in the Strait of Hormuz, are American ships.
Yeah. Okay. And this is true, right? Now, the more naval presence we put in that area, and if you'd looked at a map of the Persian Gulf, the Strait of Hormuz is a very narrow part of the Persian Gulf. In order to sail through that, you got to come within a couple of kilometers of Iran. You know what a couple of kilometers looks like on open water? Like nothing. Like, yeah, it's like small. It's almost like you have these huge ships that are coming really close to Iran. Now,
I'm pretty sure that it's such a small space that the vast majority of that water are territorial waters of Iran.
Now, keep in mind, when these ships go through there, they're getting buzzed by Iranian surveillance planes too, right?
Mm-hmm. And boats.
And do you think that we're running the risk of having an incident?
We definitely are providing ourselves the opportunity for that choice at any point, right? I mean, it doesn't take much, and you can always instigate something, and then as long as you get your story out first and sling some mud and say that it was the other way around and that you were attacked. I mean, the Gulf of Tonkin is a pretty good example of that from the Vietnam War. They could do the same thing if they want to. Absolutely, a presence there could lead to something worse. That's for sure. It's been so. How many years has it been now since we've, every time that window opens up, as far as the preferred months for military action, I think it's usually summer to fall, which we're entering into now. I could be wrong on that. I have to double check. But how many years have we been going with this, questioning whether the West is going to attack Iran? And I'm not trying to play down the fact that they're never going to attack Iran. I'm just saying that the fact that it's been kept in the spotlight for so long doesn't necessarily show that it's never going to happen, but it shows that there's this dedicated presence in confining Iran. And it's tied to so many different aspects. You have Israel in there, and the Americans and their concerns. And as much as these people are allies, the Canadians and Stephen Harper's position for foreign affairs in Canada, and the Americans and the Israelis, there are always subtle differences between they compete as interests as well. Yes. And it's just difficult sometimes to work out where exactly everybody is standing, and it's so fluid at times. But it does seem like Israel is usually described as the country that's more eager for war. And as much as I'm not a big Obama fan, it has usually been described that he's someone who's trying to at least rein them in and hold them back.
Canada's
and at
not
the same
helping.
time, sorry?
Yeah, Canada doesn't seem to be helping Obama rein Israel in.
No, and that's the curious thing, because we know that Stephen Harper has made a point of shifting Canadian foreign policy away from being even-handed to the Palestinians and the Israelis to totally favoring the Israelis over the Palestinians.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, we have a strongly
ship
like,
in
irrationally strongly pro-Israel, pro-big oil prime minister. I don't know what Stephen Harper's relationship to the oil lobby has to do with his seeming desire to create risks in the Strait of Hormuz and to saddle up so tightly to a very aggressive Israeli state. I just don't know that. But I wonder about it, because I sure see him saddling up to Israel. I sure see him creating risks in Hormuz. I sure see him,
maybe we need
advocating
to find
the
out
industry. Sorry, go ahead.
Maybe we need to find out the exact mapped out pattern that those Chinese tanker ships are going to. What's the most expedient way to get from China to West Coast Canada, where we'll be, pumping out all that bitumen from the Alberta tar sands. If they can avoid sinking on the BC coast and causing a huge ecological disaster, wouldn't they just go across and then go through the Suez Canal and through the Persian Gulf to China? Wouldn't that be the quickest way? I mean, it's just a guess on my part, but there is connection there, I believe.
Yeah, I believe you're right. I believe all this has something to do with oil. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
I'm not sure. I think oil might be important.
Yeah. So I just wanted to bring up one very important point. And I invite anyone who's listening to do this. Go to Google, type in Canada naval deployment to Hormuz,
and see if you can find anything.
And go to the news. I tell you what I got. I got one article. Okay.
Yeah, I know, it was hard to find too, wasn't it? I was digging around for it earlier before I went to work today.
And I tried a bunch of different searches that were related to this and got no articles.
I even went to the Armed Forces page to look for something, and I couldn't even find anything.
Don't you think the people of Canada deserve to know that when their government is steering us towards war, that we deserve to know it and have our voices heard?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I will even go so far to say that one article I found was not on the CBC, was not on the Toronto Star, was in the National motherfucking Post.
What the hell is going on, Tony? We live in some sort of bizarro Canada. The National Post is the only national paper that had a story about the deployment to the Strait of Hormuz. That's the only one. Is it because they're right wing that they can say these things?
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't seem to be too stoked on it or too unstoked on it. They just seemed to be reporting it, just like reporters.
Yeah, they just kind of said, "Oh, you know, the HMS whatever is going to be a semi-permanent aspect of all of the military buildup in the Strait of Hormuz."
Yeah.
Next.
Yeah.
You know.
See, to me, and of course they end the article like this. McKay reportedly told Israel's top general at a meeting last year that a threat to Israel is a threat to Canada. That's the end of the National Post article.
Yeah, just to throw that in, just so everybody understands, you know.
Yeah.
John Baird has made it clear that Canada is a better. He said we're a better ally to Israel than the United States, and if that's what the Harper government wants to try to attain. I mean, I don't know what sort of horrible things they're going to be party to, because things are messy over there, and to lean to one side like that and just support Israel without question is not a good idea.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mike. What people don't really consider very often, because you know the bullshit reasons you get taught in high school history about how World War I and World War II started. Yeah, right. Those are bullshit, right? Anyway, World War I and World War II both followed the highest points of inequality between rich people and income inequality between rich people and poor people in history. Right? Mm-hmm. When the gap between the rich and the poor grows to a certain point in both 1914 and in the 1930s, okay, there was real threat of a socialist revolution in the Western world. Okay, and in times like the Ludlow massacre,
they had to murder miners.
They had. I was just bringing up back to the Ludlow massacre, 1914, that happened in. Okay, and that's not the only example of violence against striking workers. Okay, and then all of a sudden, we better have a war, and that's World War One. You know,
yeah, World War I is.
The Americans got into it after they arranged the sinking of the Lusitania, a false flag operation, so to speak.
Yeah, you find those right at the beginning of most wars.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
No, I don't mean.
Wait a second. The poor people are getting restless. Let's put them in uniforms and find some other poor people to throw them at. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah, and so just to be absolutely clear, we are in such a time again where the division, the differential between rich people and poor people has reached another all-time high, and this is why we have to be concerned. You know, because poor people can be manipulated into fighting causes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They just get fooled into doing it. Hey, there's those people over there. They're evil. You know.
And of course, you also in the last couple years have seen these issues also rise within people's movements all over the world. Yeah. United States, Canada, even more in Spain, and in different parts of Europe and South America and across the Middle East, and you know, essentially, I think that a lot of people, and not just any people, but people who happen to make a lot of money, are sitting on their hands right now and just kind of hoping that another couple years goes by and everybody forgets why they're fucking so angry. And you know, we have to hope that the situation is understood by these people who have decided